Hello and welcome to the 31 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. Today's episode brought to us by our good friends at S2 Cognition. S2 Cognition delivers a revolutionary approach to helping athletes understand how in-game decisions impact their performance from youth levels all the way to the pros. I want to also say thank you to Pitch Logic. It's a system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play from youth leagues to the big leagues. It's easy to use and affordable technology. The platform is accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics and features used at the highest level of our sport. See pitchlogic.com for more information. I am joined by three distinguished gentlemen today, three busy gentlemen. You know, I've got Joe Healy, a.k.a. Sauce, right in the middle of his bocce season, making time for the podcast. We've got Aaron J. Fitt, who's competing in an international golf tournament this week and still carving out time for the pod. And then Kendall, the Klein Bengals, our beloved Klein Bengals, taking on, you know, a little conflict of interest, the beloved Oilers of the Klein area in what I would say would be a matchup of the two best clubs in the region. So, Kendall, I also appreciate you carving out time in ahead of this big game.
Yeah, we've been watching a lot of film on 10-year-old football players, so not really, by the way.
Please say you have.
I am happy to know that Aaron's representing our great country.
I mean, it is Texas. Like, what else are they going to do besides grind away on football footage of 10-year-olds? Like, that's the whole. It's like the whole point of the state, isn't it?
Let's go, man! Exactly. That's our state motto.
What's your mental cue this week, Fitzy? Fire at pins. What do we trust our 8-iron? What's our cue?
You know, yeah, you just got to keep the ball in front of you, Coach Rooney. We're not going to get greedy. You know, not the longest hitter in the world. We're just going to keep it in play, and we're going to
move it forward.
That's it.
Aaron feels like he's 10 foot tall and strong as an ox.
There you go.
That's right.
That actually is good advice that Aaron has. Keep the ball in front of you, because I do occasionally have a swing where the ball ends up behind me somehow. So like that actually is probably a good reminder for me anyway.
It's like the punt. It's like the punt that goes behind you.
That's right. Yeah.
Nothing better than hitting a golf ball sideways and defying the laws of physics. It's the best.
Exactly right.
Rune, did you ever, speaking of representing our country, did you ever do anything with USA Baseball when you were a coach?
No,
I don't know if Murph had any USA Baseball rules or anything like that when you were.
You know, the only thing international that applied to us was in 2000. Remember, Murph coached the Netherlands. And,
that's right.
Yeah, so Jay Safair and I were kind of on our own for a summer as far as recruiting and stuff goes. But Murph did that, and then Rod Delmonico took over for after Murph. So that was it. Never got to do the USA stuff. Obviously had a million players play in.
Was Sidney Ponson on that team?
That rings a bell.
Wasn't it
Hensley Mullins, I think, was one of their famous players.
Yeah, Bam Bam. All right.
Yeah. So
they're going to beat
really
the Netherlands. Cool. The Netherlands really has an interesting thing coming up. For those who follow international baseball, Curacao is looking to become like its own nation as far as the World Baseball Classic and what have you.
Oh, interesting.
Who
do they play with now? The Netherlands?
Yeah.
They're really? I had no idea.
Where all their best players are from, honestly.
Yeah, Curacao, Aruba, all those islands like play with the Netherlands, and the Netherlands does have some players who, you know, are from the mainland Europe. But it will be interesting to see like how much that affects the Netherlands national team, which, you know, between it and Italy tends to be the two best teams in Europe. So that'll be interesting because Curacao, obviously, a lot of history. Andrew Jones from Curacao, so a lot of history there.
Joe, you're like our Fran Frasillo. Look at you just dropping some international baseball knowledge on us.
You want to talk about grinding tape? We could talk about grinding tape.
Yeah,
we've always talked at D1Baseball about expanding our reach. Maybe Joe's our new international correspondent. He's our Ben Badler over here.
We'll send Joe to the honk ball tournament. That does sound glorious.
Yeah, send me to honk ball. Joe to honk ball.
So, all right, boys, let's do this.
I thought you said Hong Kong for a second. I was like,
no,
let's go a little far.
No, come on. Try to keep up with this, KR. You're consumed with the Klein Oilers. The boys, this is going to be a turbo pod. We do have a hard stop, and we just wanted to kind of do a sanity check on realignment as we sit here today, as football ruins every other sport in college athletics. And I feel like the sarcasm could be dripping today, so we should put a warning label on the pod.
Aaron's very passionate about this topic.
I'm only here. I'll just tell you guys ahead of time. I'm only here as the token curmudgeon. That's my job today.
Yeah.
I'm so just don't expect any positivity and rainbows out of me.
It's in his ownership contract. He's got to get on this podcast.
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, Pac-12 and Mountain West, since you are the two big perpetrators right now, go ahead and lose Fitzy and I's number with these non-baseball playing additions and subtractions. Okay, like just go ahead and save it. But let's recap. Okay, the Pac-12, the Pac-12 as we sit here today is, and this will be going forward. I guess the 2026 season is what would apply for us. So the Pac-12 as we sit here today would be Oregon State, Washington State. And by the way, let's say this on a positive note. I do feel very happy for those two schools in that they were left for dead and they're fighting to have a conference life. That does make sense. So the Beavs and the Cougs, San Diego State, Fresno State, Gonzaga is the most recent addition. So right now the Pac-12 for the 2026 season has 5 baseball playing members. The Beavs, the Cougs, San Diego State, Fresno State, Gonzaga. I mean, besides the fact that there's only 5 teams, interesting. They also added Boise State, Colorado State, and Utah State, who are all afraid to compete in baseball.
Yeah. You hate to see it.
I do wonder if Boise State will, once again bring back baseball, though, now that they're in a league like that.
Yeah, ship has sailed, hasn't it?
Well, see, the thing about it is I would tend to say yes, but I mean, I've always thought it was just so weird that they would spend that much. And I'm sure there's good reasons. I mean, people who are smarter than I look at this, but the idea that they spent years building up to bringing baseball back. And then whatever it was, 12 games into the season, COVID hits and they're like, okay, we're done here. Just seems wild to me. I'll just never understand it, I guess. I mean, I'm being a little myopic from a baseball standpoint. I get it, but you also cut a sport to bring baseball back, right? Wasn't that the deal where they'd
wrestling or something?
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong about that, but so you sacrificed a sport to bring baseball back, and then you're just going to dump baseball. Anyway, that's my little rant there because I've just always found that
topic
silly.
To bring up in a meeting too, right? Like that, they lost a lot of money because I would assume a lot of the cost to bring back a sport are on the front end, so they probably tanked a bunch of cash. Like that'd be a courageous topic. By the way, I'd like to discuss dumping another $5 million into.
Yeah,
well, and
I will say about this 5-team Pac-12 for now. One of the things that people have asked is do they keep their AQ, their automatic qualifier? And actually, a couple weeks ago, when all this was kind of boiling, I emailed Jeff Williams from the NCAA about this, and there actually is some leeway here. I mean, the limit is 6. You gotta, or the minimum is 6. You gotta have 6 to get an AQ, but you get a 2 to 3 year grace period from the time that your new league is formed. So even if next year they only have 5 teams, they still have 2 to 3 years to get a 6th team to continue having that AQ in college baseball.
We've seen a few times. It was the MEAC, I believe, had 5 and still got a bid, and there was another one.
The Summit League has danced with this for a while.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good grace period. You got to feel like they'll find a 6th team within 2 or 3 years, probably within the next month. Much less the next 2 or 3 years.
Do we know for sure yet if Oregon State is actually going to play baseball in this new league?
I don't think they've gotten that far, honestly. I think it's just assumed, but I don't think.
If you're
question.
Well, my feeling is absolutely because if you look at the teams that are going to be in this league,
it makes sense.
Washington State, obviously, you'll play them. Gonzaga, they play them every single year. Fresno and San Diego State aren't, RPI killers. So, I don't know why you'd fight it.
I agree. I think it's a no-brainer that you should, but it feels like they were kind of stubbornly.
Yeah, for sure.
The last time that we had this conversation, they're stubbornly insisting, no, we're just going to be independent. We're doing this. And we can get to that in their schedule, but go on, Coach Rooney, with recap.
So keep in mind, football's driving this, and they've got to get these leagues have to get to 8 football teams to be eligible for the college football playoff. So that's really they don't give a rip about the Olympic sports. That's really what's driving this. So just to be clear, the Pac-12 is not at 8. That's 7 because Gonzaga is not a football playing school. The Mountain West, what's left of the Mountain West is Air Force, San Jose State, New Mexico, UNLV, Nevada, UTEP just jumped from Conference USA, to the Mountain West, but they are also hashtag afraid to compete in baseball.
Mm.
And then Hawaii is a football playing member of the Mountain West, but of course they play all their other sports in the Big West. So again, for the Mountain West, they are also at 7 football playing schools. And, Kendall, as you've pointed out, like these leagues have been like, I mean, they've got their courtship game on, right? Like we're talking to Texas State and we're talking to Memphis and South Florida, and like they're spitting their Riz out at everybody. But right now they are.
Wait, did you just say Riz?
Yeah, I think
my
meant
12-year-old daughter would be so proud of you, Riz.
Yeah, well, Riley's gonna have to coach me up. I think I didn't use it.
No, I think you kind of said like Riz is kind of like being cool. I think.
Yeah,
Riz.
Yeah, you missed a spitting their Riz out.
Runes somehow knows like lingo the 12-year-old girls. So
it's pretty aggressive, if I'm being honest.
Riz, cap,
long story short,
cap's another good one.
Yes, neither league has enough football playing members to solve their problem, so they're still courting everybody. And the challenge that we, the 4 of us, care about is that now we've got these just, like ugly looking 5-team baseball leagues. So I guess the point, let me put a cap on this and we can discuss, like it can't stay this way, right? Like these leagues have to keep growing, but I don't know. Like,
I
Kendall,
still think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I still think the eventual pathway for college baseball in 4 to 5 years, when we have the revenue sharing, you're going to see more court cases. These schools are going to start paying out more and more money. I think in 5, 6 years, maybe even before that, that we end up seeing baseball be like soccer and hockey, to where they have like these regional conferences, like how Conference USA, like randomly, I want to say, I know nothing about college soccer, but I think they have like South Carolina men's soccer or something like in Conference USA. And I think Charlotte may have soccer and they're in the same league. So I think what you're going to see in 5 to 6 years is these schools, they're going to be divvying out so much money that they're going to say, hey, listen, man, like we've got to cut costs or we're going to have to cut sports. And what they're going to end up doing, I think, down the road in these smaller leagues, I think the Big Ten, SEC conferences like that will stay the same. But I think as you look at like the Mountain West of the Pac-12, I think what they'll do is they'll just make it very regional, because I guarantee you right now the Pac-12, they've mentioned looking at Texas State. Texas State was offered by the Mountain West. They decided to stay in the Sun Belt. But that's not to say, I saw a story yesterday where Northern Illinois was like in the discussion for the Pac-12. Like there's no way in hell they're going to play Pac-12 baseball in 6 years when you have revenue sharing. So I do think we'll end up having regional conferences. And frankly, I know Joe's a big Southwest Conference aficionado. I kind of love the idea of like making it where like the non-football playing conferences are all very regional, as opposed to, traveling 2,000 miles or 1,800 miles to play college baseball.
Couldn't disagree more. I'm here for Rutgers versus UCLA. Cal versus Miami makes a lot of sense to me. That's what I want. That's let's make this thing interesting, boys. Listen. The kids are young. The kids want to travel. Yeah. They're 18 to 21. They're not going to be worn out. Homework, class. Who cares? They want to. They want to have fun. They want to see the world.
I will say I was laughing the other day. It was a couple weekends ago. It was Cal at Florida State, and I turned it on. It was like the ACC game of the week, and I always have to do like a double take. I'm like, wait, Cal and Florida State's the ACC game of the week. So yeah, it's wild.
So Joe and Fitzy, let me give you guys a for instance here. Here's my hope and dream. Kendall was kind of taking us down this road.
Okay,
this is such madness. This is such a disaster. Like my hope for the commissioners of these leagues is just keep wrecking this, because eventually these TV contracts for football, which are driving all this, I think they end in 2030 or 2031 as far as the big ones go, like the Big Ten and the SEC. And then maybe we can have a rational adult discussion around football. Go ahead, knock yourself out, go crazy, and let the rest of us do what Kendall just alluded to. Joe, you can take it. You start there. Like, I don't know. Like, is that a dream world, or is that like, does it have to end up there?
Yeah, I think that's where it has to end up. And that's what's frustrating about this is I think the 4 of us and really anybody who pays attention to college athletics knows that's where we're going. And that's what's frustrating is we're just waiting for everyone to get there. We got to wait for all the checks to cash. We got to wait for it to be a smoldering crater. And then we can start to rebuild things. Right. And I think there are signs that we're continuing to get there, but it's got to come from football. And so two things I think in recent news, I think are both kind of irritating in their own ways, but also are good news if you're hoping like you are, Runes, and I kind of agree with you. Let's just like get there as fast as we can. One is the Big Ten and SEC are talking about a scheduling alliance, right? Like in a classic rich get richer thing in football, right? Like, okay, sure. You could have 12 games just made up of those two conferences playing each other. That's one. And two is, and I don't know the ins and outs of this, so I'm not going to get into much detail, but I know the Wall Street Journal had a story yesterday about a group that's coming for a third-party group that's coming forward to propose essentially a super league of, I think it's 76 FBS football teams that would compete at the top flight, to use a soccer terminology. And there would be a little promotion and relegation out of that. Now, that's just a concept, right?
I don't like that idea.
But that's what it looks like, probably the end game in football. Whether or not it's promotion relegation, I would bet against that probably. But some number, 76, 64, 68, whatever, at the top flight, everybody else is, below that. And once we get there, it feels like then we can move on to rebuilding the rest of college athletics. Now, I'm less bullish than Kendall is on the timeline. I would love for it to be in 4, 5, 6 years. I'm thinking it's closer to 10.
It could be.
But none of us know. That's the thing. Like, if anybody tells you they know exactly when that's happening, I think they're lying.
I think this is what you're alluding to. I haven't seen that story, but I mean, there's been a lot of discussions about, and this sounds absolutely ridiculous and outrageous, but there's been a lot of discussions about like private equity firms getting involved in college athletics, which
why is that ridiculous in this day and age? Like, why is that, and that's no more ridiculous than anything else is going on. Let's go ahead, bring all the money. Hey, can we get the Saudis on the phone, please? Yasser, Yasser's taking your call. He wants.
Hey, that assistant coach at Colorado tried that. Colorado tried that. That assistant coach went rogue and tried to get NIL money from the Saudis.
That's incredible.
We'll have LIV college football funds.
Yeah, you wait, guys. It's seriously. I mean, private equity. If private equity is coming, and it is, I think that's exactly right. Then, why not bring in the Saudis? Let's just go for broke here, boys. It's all about the Benjamins.
We got all this oil in Texas. You can just have University of Texas A&M sponsored by the Saudi government.
Love it.
I think I've said this to you guys, but that's my conspiracy theory that could, and again, it's hard for me to. Most of these conversations take place on my own head in Fantasy Island, but think about the Big Ten and the SEC. Those institutions will be taking in $40 million per year more than their peers in the next tier of leagues, not to mention leagues 2 tiers down. So if you're the SEC and the Big Ten, how long do you expect those other leagues and those other schools to be good with? Well, we're down another 40 mil. We're down another 40 mil. In a competitive landscape, eventually they're going to do something extreme and desperate, like what you guys are saying. Call Saudi Arabia, call private equity, and
Saudi Arabia
job, and that stuff gets ugly because they will find a way to make it more profitable by cutting a lot of things. And so my hope is that the SEC and the Big Ten, who have all the cards right now, say, hey, even though we would have to surrender our advantage, having these bad actors come into our space would be not good long term. And
what I'm kind of curious of, what I'm curious of is if somebody told me to call Saudi Arabia, what number would I call?
You have to fly there and just you cold call.
I was going to say just dial 411, see if you can get them to route you. Does that exist as a service anymore?
It's a great question.
Give me
Yeah.
Does anyone have a landline? They can try it.
Hey, by the way, the thing you guys alluded to in football, Joe and Kendall, it's 72 teams. It's 12 6-team divisions. It's really cool. It's in the Wall Street Journal, and it's very regionally based. It's actually the 6-pack is one of the divisions, the old 6-pack. And it was really cool. It's, everybody says it's completely not realistic at all. But I think it would be cool to try in baseball. Why not? We could be the pilot for that thing or something. But
well, I mean, here's the reality of the situation is in a few years, I mean, if I'm being really honest with you, like I don't think the NCAA is running college sports, and so somebody's got to do it.
Yeah,
agreed.
Maybe it's this group. I mean,
and part of this plan in the Wall Street Journal is that there is a plan from minute one to be paying the players. And so like this group would be like, hey, we're just going to come in and just administrate this, and we're going to pay the players, and here's how it's set up. So I think it is a little bit far-fetched in its current form, but like at least we're at the point where we're talking about the end game here.
Yeah.
So
I will say
being
this,
proactive.
And I'll say this too. I mean, again, it's a pipe dream, this whole thing we're talking about right now. But I mean, if we're talking about the concept of a plan, we might as well talk about it. The idea of the relegation thing is the best way I think that we can go about, kind of condensing, because we've talked a lot on the show over the years. I think Kendall is a real big fan of kind of like having almost like a the subdivision, Division 1A, Division 1AA, so we don't hold back the powers that be, the haves. And I think if you add in a relegation factor, allow a promotion factor, allow those teams on the edge to kind of move up into that top group, and vice versa. First of all, it makes it interesting on the margins. It really creates some theater there, but it also, it kind of keeps some other teams involved that aren't necessarily in that. The real the money, right? They're not the blue bloods, but they can still compete and have a chance to get in there. I love that idea. I don't know again that it'll ever happen. It feels like it's a pipe dream, but I think it's a neat concept.
Yeah, the relegation thing in soccer is I'm an Everton football fan, and they fought off relegation last game of the year last year, I think it was. And it's like, the fans came on the field after they finished in 17th place, right? Like it was like, it's a god awful season that gets celebrated.
Can you imagine Charlotte playing, Georgia Southern football, and if they don't win, they get pushed down another division, or even in baseball?
It's crazy. Hey, let's cap it. Let's end with this topic. So here's a reality that we actually do know of. Two things. Yeah. One is the Oregon State put out their 2025 schedule as an independent in baseball. The other thing is, I think you guys are getting the same coach calls I'm getting. I talked to a coach last night about, hey, does anybody in college sports know that we are about to send out NLIs, national letters of intent, and we don't know how many players we're allowed to have on our team next August. So what are we doing? Are we sending these things out or not? And I think what's going to happen is all the coaches are going to just be fairly aggressive sending them out. And then, hey, if you end up having to cut people next August, you're not going to be the only bad guy. But let's talk about, what you guys think of the Oregon State 2025 schedule? Fitzy, you go first. What'd you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, they kept telling us, hey, we think we could do this. We think we can do this. We've got a great schedule coming. And they did. They pulled it off. It's a great schedule. It's a lot of road games, which I know some of the home fans aren't thrilled with. It'll be great for their RPI, but I think they're they've got a nice homestand there in March, I think, right? San Diego and Grand Canyon for 3 games series on the weekends. They got Wazoo midweek for a couple. But started, of course, with those really good early season tournaments like they usually do. This year they've got Round Rock and Arlington back to back, in addition to their usual surprise thing. So it's even stronger than ever early in the year. And then it's, you've got some good series on the West Coast, of course, or against West Coast teams. Irvine jumps out to me. I think, was it UCLA? They've got just a midweek, right? But yeah, you've got at Oregon. Great that they can keep that one in there. They play Iowa late, which is neat. You got to find these teams that have buys, and you get them. I think that's at Iowa, if I recall. And then they've got Nebraska on the road as well in late March. So I mean, they got a couple of cool Big Ten road trips. I guess at UCLA is a Big Ten road trip. It's a good schedule for year one. Now, whether they could do this year after year, I'm a little more skeptical, but maybe they can. I mean, if they needed to, but it sounds like they probably won't have to. They're going to have a Pac-12 schedule that they can play.
Yep.
I actually think that there's a chance, and I think it's a moot point because, or as Joey Tribbiani would say, a moo point. That's there for.
It's a good poll there. Wow.
Thank you. I think it's a moot point because they are eventually going to, be in the Pac-12. But I do think over time, it actually, somewhat counterintuitively, Aaron, I think it actually might get easier to schedule, because I do think, and I've said this for a while, that Oregon State, if they wanted to do this, and I think it's going to get taken out of their hands, they're not going to be able to. I think they could be Gonzaga men's basketball for college baseball, because like, if you're good enough, and they are, if you have the history, and they do. Now Gonzaga is in a league, but let's be honest, their schedule is really based on who you can get in non-league play. And for Oregon State, I think that they could do something similar to what's been done there, which is, at this point, teams know, hey, if you want to schedule like a interesting neutral site game, if you want to schedule like a multi-team event and you're looking for somebody to get involved, like Gonzaga's game, call Gonzaga. They'll do it. I do think there is like a little bit of, they would have the ability at some point to be like the anybody, any place, anytime kind of team. Now that could also get fatiguing. I get that. So I think they're actually, if this works, and at least on the schedule piece, it did, if they're successful with this, I do think over time there is a benefit to being this team that's like, hey, if you got something going on, call us. We'll come. We don't care where it is. We'll show up. We'll play. We'll beat you, and then we'll go home. Which would be kind of fun. But again, I don't think we're getting there, but it is something fun to think about.
Yeah, the thing that I kind of noticed when you look at their schedule is they know the formula now. So you have a Big Ten team at the beginning of May. You've got a Big Ten team, was it Nebraska on March 28th through the 30th. So what that tells me is that these leagues like the Big West and the Big Ten will have those kind of open weekends. So, I mean, essentially what you just do moving forward is you load up a great non-conference schedule like they've done. They go to a lot of neutral site games, Arlington, Round Rock, Surprise. And now what you do in future years, if you have to, you just go, hey, which Big West team is open that weekend? Which Big Ten team is open that weekend? And you just go schedule them, which is what they've done with this one.
It's going to be fun to watch it play out, because you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Cal State Fullerton schedules back in the day, where they would just like go on the road and stay on the road and just play anybody anywhere. It was like somebody, they lost a bet, their schedule. Like, are you really playing all these teams on the road? And then they just knew they were going to catch up at the bottom with the bottom of the Big West.
You think about 2004, where they were
they were
530 games into the year, and then they just wound up being the best team in the country and won it all. I mean, it's just
I will say this for Oregon State. I don't know if this balance is sustainable. I have a feeling their fans are gonna like riot if this is the number of home games they have every single year moving forward. And I don't blame them. Like, that's an awesome place to watch a college baseball game. They're ultra passionate. I always say it's a very SEC-like fan base. So hopefully in the future they have a lot more home games, and this is just kind of a one-off.
Yep. Yeah, that's the only downside. Like, as you guys have said, the good news is that will be great for their RPI. 36 games not at home and 20 home games. But it'll be tough on the fan base. I mean, and the other cool thing is that, we haven't done any rankings conversations, but Oregon State has got a nice looking roster. Like, they could be really good again this year, and some high-end talent. And Oregon State, they just keep on keeping on. Like, they're not losing good players in the portal. In fact, they're doing well in the portal. Really remarkable the way that program's hung in there despite all the adversity.
Well, I think it kind of goes back to Joe's point. I mean, they're kind of the Gonzaga of the sport. Like, like Oregon State, it doesn't matter their situation. Like, they're considered a blue blood.
Unlike Gonzaga in basketball, though, the Beavers have won it all. Can get it done in the postseason.
Ooh, shots fired.
Well, I mean, come on,
what did Mark ever do to you?
Win something, huh? Come on.
Win something.
Oh, just a snotty Carolina basketball fan.
Yes, boys, let's wrap it there. We just wanted to kind of get circle the wagons on realignment. Let's just kind of establish where we are. There's a lot of people asking people to the prom, and some people are saying yes, and some people are saying no, and we've got the shell game of exit fees. Like, you could have this people's exit fees. We're buying prom dates now, which feels uncomfortable. I will tell you, on the house settlement, it's like you read one article and it was terrible. Then you read the next article 2 weeks later and it's like, okay, we're back on. And like, that thing feels, I don't feel comfortable having.
That's going to be interesting, Runes. I mean, here's my thing. So it sounded like they were supposed to come out with something about last Thursday. and they haven't. What that kind of tells me, just kind of reading the tea leaves, is they're trying to find a pathway for this to be settled. That's what it seems like. If they're going a week beyond what the deadline date was before, I think they're trying to get something done, which obviously would be much better for college baseball. But if not, I mean, if they go to trial, I mean, you're looking at 2027 before they probably even go to trial.
Yep. My understanding, Kendall, on this is that if the Judge Wilkin, grants preliminary approval, they're going to, because then there'll be an objection period and then appeals and those types of things. They have a provision in there where they can execute the plan while the appeals are happening. So they can implement it, and then now again, like
better hope there's no restitution rule though. Now, if you go ahead and start, paying your players now, and then the NCAA is like, hold on a minute, like this is invalid, and then demands restitution, and you're all, I'm just making a snide
just using 7-syllable words.
Well, that was one of the things I used to despise about the old NCAA structure was like Andy Oliver or somebody, like you could win your case on and be ruled eligible, and then lo and behold, it's overturned. Now your whole team is screwed for the whole season and all the games you played. Like the restitution rule was garbage. So anyway, screw that. Go on.
And that's where we are, Fitzy. Honestly, is like we're at the point where who knows? Like it's just like I don't know what to believe anymore, right? It's like it looks good, it looks bad, it looks good, it looks bad. It's like this is going to happen until it's not going to happen. I think that is the roller coaster ride that we're in for a while, unfortunately. So there you go, boys. Let's cap it right there. That was good. I'm glad. I've been wanting to do this. I've been wanting to kind of get level set on realignment. As changes occur, we can join up again. Fitzy. I
want to lob some more grenades. Can we hold on, guys? I want to lob some more grenades. Who else can I blow up this morning?
Save your grenades for the golf course. Let's just go.
Fitzy, just do me a favor and don't talk smack on that first hole.
And Chris Burke's not going to be there. I got nothing to worry about. I learned my lesson on that one. Now when I see Berkey on the ping pong table, Chris from Louisville, I know you're listening. When I see you on the ping pong table next year, we're going to settle things. And I'm not afraid to run my mouth on the ping pong table, but the golf course, maybe not so much.
Fitzy, I think our good friend, the godfather, if you will, Kyle Peterson would say, after you hit your tee shot, turn to the representatives from the country of France and say, who wants to press after one swing.
That's it. I love that. I love that approach.
Yes, let's go. Very good. Gentlemen, have a great week. Listeners, have a great week. That's it. Enjoyed it. And we will catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.